Okay, guys, it's time to go down in the bus leagues once again. Brought to you by the Frisco Rough Riders once again. Now, speaking of the Frisco Rough Riders, we're going to go down in the bus leagues. We're going to talk about every level of the bus leagues, where that's at, and a couple of players on each one. Now, Down East and Hickory have not played. They've had a lot of rain up there. So you go to Down East first. If you don't know the levels, guys, there's low A, high A, double A here in Frisco, right here close, and then triple A that's to the minor leagues. We're just reminding you of that. I know a lot of you that watch this know that, but for those that don't, want to bring it up. Down East Wood Ducks, they are the low A team. A lot of the baby kids that are just first getting here are there. They're 3-1. They've won 3 in a row. Really down there, probably the big name's Brock Porter.
Yeah, and his professional debut didn't go great. You know, he threw 32 pitches, only 12 strikes. I think he walked 4, only got 1 out, but you know, it might have been some nerves. I don't know. I don't want to put myself in there. Haven't talked to him, but I'm sure he was amped up. You know, it's the first time. It's the first time he pitched since June or whatever it was.
Right.
His high school state championship game. So I wouldn't worry about that. But to your point about young guys, he's one of them, obviously. But I think there was something I saw. I don't remember if it was Baseball America or MLB Pipeline. The youngest players in each league, and I think Down East has 3 of the top 10 in the Carolina League
that are 18.
Youngest, 3 of the top 10 youngest guys. So, I mean, they're emphasis on young, but Ian Muller's back, Cam Cawley's back. Expect them to be better this year. So, you know, it's always a roller coaster ride with that team.
Yep.
Especially when the summer hits and maybe some of the Arizona kids get moved up or some of the draftees get to go out.
Right.
Things can go south. Not south, but, you know, they can hit a roadblock like they did kind of last year.
Yeah, absolutely. And then when you go to high A is kind of a big deal right now because of one particular guy who started there and looked outstanding. High A is they play in the South Atlantic League, Hickory, and that's the Hickory Crawdads. And we got to talk about Rocker, who did not. Everybody wondered if he was going to start double A. He did not, and looks like maybe double A might have been something he could have done because he looked pretty dominant.
Well, yeah, you know, it was dominant. You know, 5 scoreless, 2 hits, 8 strikeouts, no walks. He did it in 53 pitches.
Yeah,
you know, this is a guy who is going to challenge you. He throws a lot of strikes, and you know, that's something that a lot of guys could. Not going to name any names, but it's a lesson that a lot of guys, it would help if it rubbed off on them. But, you know, there are a lot of strike throwers in that Hickory rotation. Mitch Bratt is one of them.
Right.
You know, and he's a premium strike thrower, too. What a great rotation that they have there. You know, they're heavy on arms, not really on bats. You know, Cody Freeman, Osuna are there. You know, a lot of guys. Again, they've had 4 games. I think they've had nearly as many rainouts as they've had games.
Yeah,
and
some weather issues there.
Going to be playing a lot of doubleheaders Down East too. And but you know, these guys, when they get their at bats, they'll start getting acclimated and everything will pick up. I mean, you don't really look at the results this early.
Yeah, there's not a lot of outstanding numbers on as far as the bats go right now, but that. Seriously, they got to get into the season, get comfortable, get going. Some of them, this is really the first time they're going to play this big a schedule. Every night there's basically a game, except Monday nights. Got to go to Double A. This is the most talented team in all of minor league baseball, according to Jim Callis.
Yeah,
they are 2-3 starting the season. They've only played 7 games. They did win last night.
2 and 3 is 5.
Yeah,
you said 7.
I am not a math whiz. Okay, let me hit my calculator. I'm going to double check that and make sure you're right. No, they're 2-3 to start the season. Went out there and saw them the first couple of nights. I tell you, who's looked good is Owen White, who last night he ended up giving up 1 hit last night, but he's pitched like
4 1/3. Yeah,
he's pitched 8 total scoreless innings or 7 1/3 scoreless innings. So far, Jack Leiter had a better start the other night, 4 1/3. I think he gave up 1 run. Still a little bit with the walks. Needs to get that
still
back.
A little inefficient through. I think it was 90 pitches, 42 strikes. So, or I'm sorry, 48 strikes. So
it's encouraging to see him do better, but it's not the Jack Leiter we were expecting or wanting to see.
Yeah, and you know, it's still early for them too. And,
right.
But you know. again, a real talented rotation. And TK Roby's in it. Ryan Garcia, who made his Double-A debut
The reason,
Tuesday night.
yeah. And he is the reason that they.
Yeah, that's what I was told. And Ryan is 25. He was a college junior when he was selected, and he went through some injuries. So
he's from the Josh Young draft.
Yeah, exactly. Davis Wenzel too. Yeah. Those are the first 3 picks. Young, Wenzel, Garcia.
Yeah.
But it's good to see.
Good kid
always
too.
been through, such a nice guy. Definitely a guy to keep an eye on. He was just, everybody raved about him this spring.
Yep.
And so he's definitely up to the task. It looks like Evan Carter's up to the task.
Yeah, let me tell you what. I had a funny. I've been tweeting about him and what he's been doing, and somebody tweeted me back, and it was pretty funny. Death, taxes, and Evan Carter and multiple RBIs. Because this kid he's hitting 357, I think, right now.
I think it's higher than that now.
He might be.
Or 348 maybe.
He's got a over 1,200 OPS. He hit a triple last night. He hit 2 home runs the night before. No, he's not coming to the big leagues right now. But I'm telling you, I've said that's a sleeper guy to watch that might get to the big leagues. That's obviously a CY situation that he'll make that choice. But I think Bochy has an ear to the. I mean, let's look at the big leagues. If this continues for 2 months at Double-A, and this guy's putting up 1,400 OPS, 1,200, if he has 12 home runs, 10 home runs.
Yeah.
And you look, he could use some weight. He is, he's got good 20 pounds that he could put on there to make it better. But that's a guy that is legitimately in this whole organization, top to bottom, might be one of the 3 best outfielders.
Yeah, he might be. I still think he's got to go through all the steps. Yeah, I don't. He'd have to go to AAA. I just think.
Could he get a quick promotion, say a month and a half from now?
I don't know. I mean, if he has a 950 OPS after 2 months, and it looks like he's just toying with him, I think maybe he would get promoted. So, but we'll see. But yeah, it's a very encouraging start. Again, it's 5 games, but he had a great spring.
So you're saying I'm overreacting?
Maybe, but I mean, it's better than the alternative. But
yes.
And some of these guys are struggling, but the one thing that they are doing is they are getting on base. Dustin Harris is batting 200, but he walked 3 times Thursday night. So,
so JC is hitting about 250, but he's looked good, but he's taking pitches too.
Trevor Hauver is of that same mold. And again, when Aaron Zavala gets back, he's going to be
that's the guy.
Another guy who just knows the strike zone like Carter, like Harris, like Hauver, and just makes guys work.
So I was watching, and like we said earlier, it's Friday, guys. So I was watching it last night. We said it earlier in the show. So when you're watching this, the Houston series may already be over. But like I said last night, I was watching on my MILB app. I was watching the Double-A game. Carter struck out looking the first at bat, got a full count, and took a outside corner. They called it a strike. It did not look like a strike.
Yeah.
And he actually said something. I mean, this is one of the sweetest kids in the world. But he actually looked at the ump and said something on his way back to the dugout.
Yeah.
He was not pleased. And that kid has got that good an eye that he felt you missed that call.
Yeah, no, I saw it happen in a minor league game later. I think it was the last day we were in spring training. It was like a star-studded day of guys, Rocker was on one field, Cole Winn and Sam Huff and Dustin Harris and Carter were in the AAA game. And Carter got rung up, and he looked back at the ump, and he just said, "That's not a strike." And there are certain headers you just trust.
I think that's what his mouth said. That's not a strike. You missed that, or something to that effect. But he turned around, walked right back to the dugout. But I like that. I mean, he didn't throw a fit, didn't do anything like that.
I don't think that's in his nature.
No, I don't think so either. But I was out at Frisco and talked to him a couple nights for opening weekend. His wife's here. They're in town with the dog. Finally saw her. Cute girl. He's got a nice, a pretty wife there. Good young couple. I always like that. I think that's hysterical to how young they are. But anyway, she was there. But Frisco, man, I'm telling you, and look, it's not just because Frisco's partnered up with us, guys. You need to go out.
Yeah.
That is you're going to watch Major League Baseball players playing baseball. There are guys on that. They're up and down that lineup that are going to be Major League Baseball players.
And the Texas League has some good players too.
Absolutely.
So, it's a good one to.
Well, Double-A is really where top prospects end up if they do go to AAA, it's usually because they're blocked.
Yeah.
And they get to AAA and just sit there because they're blocked at the big league
Sure.
level. But your talent goes to AA. That's where they really start facing.
You just look at last year, and the last 2 years, Julio Rodriguez was there a couple of years ago. And
Yeah.
Last year, all those Cardinals prospects were knocking on the door or in the majors now. And Corbin Carroll,
Yeah.
who's with the Diamondbacks now. He was in AA last year. I
Yeah.
mean, so that's the caliber of player you're getting. And you're seeing them young, but
It's a cheap ticket.
yeah.
You get out there, you'll see some Rangers Today baseball podcast things showing up out there because they are doing some partnership with us. We already talked about that earlier. And I'm not just saying that because of that. There's some good baseball played there. Yeah. And it's a fun team to watch. And they are going to be a good, talented team. They can score runs. They have top pitching prospects there. But we got to go to Round Rock. That's the level right below the major leagues, AAA. They're 7-4, 7-3 in their last 10. They have played 10 games. So we could do that.
Well, they did start earlier. So,
Right. They started the Friday night after the Rangers started. The Rangers started. Nothing outstanding at the plate. Nobody's really stepped up and putting up huge numbers yet.
Yeah, well, Julio Pablo Rodriguez, JP, or
Yes,
not Rodriguez, Martinez.
You forget about him because he's 27 and he's been here.
JP,
Cuban defector, right?
Yeah, I enjoyed talking to him last year in Frisco.
Does he speak good English?
No. He doesn't. He understood a lot of my questions though. But he explained just everything that was going on. It was a hard transition.
Yeah.
For him coming to the United States. I mean, the food's different. I mean, just all these things, places he'd never been. He got adjusted to it. He had some eye issues a couple of years ago that he got straightened out.
He did okay last year.
He did real well last year.
Yeah,
he got promoted early, or one of the first promotions to AAA. He was good. He's of the age, fast, hits for power. He does a lot of good things, and the Rangers, he was the consolation prize when they missed out on Shohei Ohtani. They had all this money left, so they went and signed him.
Yeah.
So anyway, he's doing well. But yeah, and like you said,
the rest of the lineup though has not. I mean, there's nobody hitting over 300 besides him. I'll have to double check that. That might have changed the last time I had a look.
Yeah,
but he was hitting over 300. He's leading off for that team, and that's good for him. I mean, this is a guy that maybe he gets a call up. I mean, he's old enough. He's not on the 40 man.
Right.
There would have to be a corresponding move to do that. But Wynn had a better outing last night. He still gave up 3 runs.
Yeah, but. A scout I talked to who was there said it was really good. It's the best his fastball's been in a long time.
Really? Just wasn't finding the point.
He pitched better than his line. And that'll happen. You never know. Again, we don't see these games like we see Rangers games.
Right.
You don't know plays that weren't made behind him.
Sure. Absolutely.
And so, anyway, that's encouraging to hear. But their best pitcher has been Cody Bradford, who's pitching tonight. We don't want to jinx him, but
absolutely,
he's 2-0 and hasn't allowed a run yet.
Big friend of the show here.
Friend of the show. Yeah.
His parents are friends of the show. They come up. Every time I see them, they come up and talk to me.
We'll have to get him on here soon. I told him we'd try to do it in the off season in studio, and it never happened. So that'll be. But he's been really good, and he impressed a lot of guys. And I did an informal poll of like who's impressed you the most. So like a bunch of coaches and a couple of scouts and executives, and he was the first name out of Greg Maddox's mouth.
Really?
So if Greg Maddox is impressed with how
I've heard of him.
Yeah. And I talked to Mike Maddox yesterday on the off day. He really likes Cody too. He sees him helping. That's good for him. And right now, like we talked about early on when we were talking about Taylor Hearn, that bullpen's pretty good. And a lot of guys who you could mix and match. So we'll see what the corresponding move is later today for the Hearn move. Again, I think it's going to be Joe Barlow, but anyway, they've got some arms in that bullpen, and that's probably why they're off to such a good start.
Yep.
So.
All right, guys. Is that it? Anything else when we get out of here? Big thanks to the Frisco Rough Riders for what they're doing with us.
Yeah.
And like we said earlier in the show, there's some big things coming up for the podcast. We're going to let you guys know about that once it's official.
Yeah.
But until then, guys, we're going to see you at the yard.
Yeah.